What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. BobbyFi with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. I know that some people were complaining about the bragging and what are you talking about stuff in the YouTube channel. Guys, a lot of people who follow us actually do like to talk about that stuff, and we go over things and we try and we're going to do some reverse engineering, going back through lineups, things that we did right and wrong. So it's going to happen from time to time. So we don't love being trolled. There's no reason to come after us for anything. We're sitting here we're giving you free content right now. And we're doing the best we can. Some nights we're going to lose like last night, and other nights we're going to win like the night before, at least for me. And Sheets, how did you do last night? And what do you think about tonight's slate overall?
I didn't do all that great last night. Had a couple of, the typical NBA, pretty typical NBA for a tournament player. I had some good things go well. Couldn't quite put everything together. I was on that Booker Cat thing pretty nicely. But just the rest of the lineups didn't quite work. And I did have ready for this. I had a Westbrook Beal together lineup that was rolling along on Fanduel. I think that's the one that finished the top. It might have finished the top 100 on in the $3 or something like that. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, just overall whatever. Again, I don't want to stray too much from this, but again, I'm like, I don't know, maybe just because I'm older and get less judgmental in my older age. But if someone wants to be excited about doing well, or if someone wants to not be excited about doing well, that's really just, everybody's different, man. Everybody enjoys success in kind of different ways, and it depends on what it is. Like I remember, a couple of months ago, I won something pretty big, and I think it was like horse racing. And Bobby was like, "Oh my, how are you not freaking going crazy? How are you not so freaking excited?" It's like you're so chilled. I'm like, I don't know, that particular thing just doesn't really just make me too pumped up. And on the other hand, I'm telling you, if I won like a GPP in freaking FanDuel for like 1,100 that night, I would have freaking gone ballistic and gone crazy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's everybody's whatever, and bragging or whatever. Let me tell you guys something. Maybe it's just because I'm older or whatever it is. I went through different stages again in my life. When I was like younger, I swear to you, like everything that happened good or whatever, I would just be rubbing it in all over the world, right? And I don't want to say sore loser, but I would take everything really hard. But when things were going really well, I'd be one of those real annoying kids. And then when I got to be like in my 30s, right, or whatever, I kind of like meandered into like kind of like the Barry Sanders life, like you go into the end zone, you just hand the ball to the referee, don't brag, don't be whatever. Life is filled with this, that, and the other thing, whatever. But then I'll tell you something else, man. Once you get a little bit older, you start realizing that success is fleeting sometimes, man. So you better enjoy it, So I'm kind of back into when anything good happens to make a really, really big deal about it. But like I said, everybody's life's different. Everybody's stage of their life is different. So Bobby, Bobby was struggling, man, for like a couple of weeks there. And, we went through, we whined a little bit, say, oh, maybe we should look at the way we do things. And he came out of the slump in freaking fine style. And dude, if you don't freaking celebrate that, I mean, you're not human.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm okay with anybody even saying, hey, this pick was wrong for me or this or that. I just don't like when it feels hostile and then they're coming from a place of just complete negativity and hating. I just don't like that kind of stuff. And yeah, sure, sometimes there's going to be whining, sometimes there's going to be stuff, but overall, I agree. I think I personally enjoy celebrating. I enjoy that, when people we root for. There's another guy I found out yesterday. I was talking to our mutual friend Anthony Venturini, and he told me that a guy who's obsessed with our show and watches us every day, he won a golf tournament last week for $100,000. And Anthony goes, they were worried that it was going to make you upset because you've been talking about we went through a losing streak. And no, I'm thrilled with those guys. You know what I mean? That's terrific. And if we had anything to do with it, which I'm not even sure if we did, great. And if not, still great. I don't, let's celebrate it, the positivity and try and keep the negativity.
Anyway,
so let's get to it. All right. Let's get to tonight. We're going to go game by game. We'll start off with DraftKings and we'll do the FanDuel. This is I went through a lot of time this morning because I wasn't really happy with the way that I played yesterday. I thought that I did something I tried to do later in the day a lot, but I tried to get too many different combinations. And because I was playing more lineups, I was trying to make sure I had exposure to certain things, which didn't keep me with my tighter core. Everybody I had that had a good night, like Westbrook, I had with the field or right above the field at 20%. I just didn't quite have like a great, core that I felt good about. And I could have lost even with a good core, but I felt like I was a little spread out, a little murky with the way I did things. So I want to get back to it today. And I'm just going to say, like, there are some obvious spots in this slate, but there are a million good plays and a ton of upside all over the place. It's a tournament players. I don't know whether you call it a dream or a nightmare. I'll tell you, at 1 a.m. Eastern time, but that's where I'm at with this slate as an overall perspective. Do you have any overall thoughts before we jump into?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. So they're running like a back-to-back here?
A lot of teams are, yeah.
So it's not just the Phoenix game. It's a couple of teams that played last night.
There's a couple teams that played each other already in the last game, but I don't think it was last night. I'm double checking that as we speak. Yeah, I don't think any of these games were back-to-back night by night, but they did play each other recently in, I think it was, maybe it's just that one.
Because I saw it when it came up on the schedule, and I was wondering what the hell was going on.
It's happened a lot this year. It's going to keep happening. I mean, they're trying to keep it, and I think by the way, it's going to be a little bit of the future of the NBA. And I don't even have a problem with it. I think the over travel hurts the game, and I think the quality of play for the most part is actually much, much better these days. So I think you're going to see a lot of it. I also think it's going to create some. I feel like they're really easy to get from a sports betting angle. Like, for example, that game tonight. I mean, we'll get to it when it comes up, but just right off the bat, I want to bet the under in that game, and I want to bet Phoenix to cover. Like, you know what I mean? It's you see the games play one way one night, and almost always the second night of the back-to-back, it seems like the team that, was supposed to win by a bunch the first time finally does, or they swap winning or whatever. But the main thing is that the point spread almost always seems to be lower by total. But I don't have the evidence to back that up at the moment because it's only been a small sample anyway. But all right, pull up your screen. Let's go game by game.
Listen, the deal is also, as I've talked about before, these are not just data points, like the night before. I mean, these are human beings, and they things change from day to day, and they react in certain ways. I mean, Washington lost by 800 points the night before,
right? And
then they went and played one of the best teams in the NBA, and all the blowout risks seem to have been on the other side yesterday. Mm-hmm. So it's just the way it goes, man. They're basketball players are not robots. They have letdowns. They get up for things, and it's really important to understand that sometimes.
Absolutely. All right, Sacramento, Boston. What's that?
Is my screen up or not up?
It's not up right now.
It's not up. See, I could have had it up earlier.
Yeah, well, we like to, we do the opening. I don't know. It's maybe I'm rooted in the DFS mind of everybody else. All right. Let's jump to it. What are we looking at? I actually think if on a different slate, I would have a ton of interest in this game. I have mild interest as it is. What are you looking at on the Sacramento side, and then take us over to Boston?
You have mild interest in this game?
I would under normal slate. I don't know how. Yeah. Oh, in this slate I do. I think that, De'Aaron Fox is hard to ignore that, which, by the way, this is a great matchup whenever Kemba's in. And, the guy has literally scored 30 actual points. What is it? 5 games in a row? I just think that 60 seems well within the realm of possibility. 50 plus if the game is close, I would consider very, very likely, even with Halliburton back. And then I have slight interest in Halliburton. I would normally have interest in Holmes, not on this slate. But Halliburton and Fox are guys I would consider for this slate. I would consider Barnes on FanDuel, and I would consider Tice, Brown, Tatum, and Walker on both sites. I actually think one of those guys has a monster game here, and I still have a lot of interest, particularly in Brown.
Yeah, I like the top guys. Fox, Brown, and Tatum, and then I'm combining the two teams. And then my top, if I had to pick a value play, I would go back, like you said, I would go back to Tice. Mm-hmm. But it's nothing great.
Yeah, I think that Brown has look, we can look at, he's had much, much worse matchups than Sacramento, and he put up 47-50 in his last 2. He's put up, other than the one game against Houston where they blew the hell out of him. So the game was 20, he only played 26 minutes. He would have gotten 20 shots up, but he's basically 23, 21, and 26 shots his last 3 games. You put that into the context against Sacramento, not to mention that it adds to his steal block upside, which is already very high. I just think, especially on FanDuel at 7,500, but even at DraftKings at 8K, he stands out as sort of being the obvious one. And then Tatum certainly has a 60 fantasy point ceiling. And I think that Walker has a 50 against these guys. I love to pick on these guys, not to mention Marcus Smart at 53 or 5K at probably very low ownership because of some of the value. He's getting his minutes back. And again, it's Sacramento. It's something I always look to try and exploit. And I feel like there's 3 or 4 guys in this game at least that I expect to go 5.5 to 6.5x with some upside on that. So it's just gonna, we're gonna have to revisit at the end who we like the most, because there's a lot of really good plays in the slate, like I said before.
A lot of really good plays with some pretty fishy teams, I think.
Yep. One of them comes up.
All right. Want to move on to San Antonio, Cleveland. Speaking of which.
Yeah. Better plays on FanDuel, in my opinion, for the most part. I mean, Derek White's a little cheaper over there. Look, Derek White, I believe in Derek White as a player. So I'm always, when he projects well, and, I just will say there's a lot of fluctuation going on with this team, and not anything is guaranteed. So whether he's projected for 30 minutes or 26 minutes, it's sort of the same thing. He's going to play somewhere in the 26 to 35 minute range. And it's really hard to speculate on which one it'll be. With all these guards, Pop is sort of treating them like they're basically just, you could just swap them in for each other. I think DeJounte Murray's a mistake with White in general, even though I don't mind the price on him and all that stuff. I just think that we haven't really seen him consistently perform. So Derek White and Keldon Johnson, long story short, are my main levels of interest. On a different slate where we didn't have value, I would take a shot on Vassell or Walker, but I'm not going to today.
Well, I think that I want to congratulate you in advance, because I feel as though you can win on Keldon Johnson tonight, because I think I'm done trying. It doesn't matter how many people are out, how many people are in, or whatever it is. Every time I play him, he just never does anything. He'll have 32 minutes, he'll score 5x, he'll have whatever it is. So you can. So congratulations in advance. You're gonna win with.
I mean, before the All-Star, when he was healthy, he was consistently in the 40s and high 30s, and people were paying $7K for him. And now they have less bodies. Now, it's true that it has been fluctuating, but I think that a lot of that is getting these. I think Pop took the COVID thing really seriously and really, slowly brought these guys back. That's
okay.
What I take of it. But I hear you. I understand. I totally couldn't blame you. And there's plenty of other slates you can take another shot on them if you ever feel like it, because this is a giant slate. You certainly aren't forced to play Keldon Johnson.
I didn't like anybody from Cleveland except, JaVale McGee's still cheap at 3,300. That was pretty much it.
I think Nance is one of the best tournament plays in the slate, as he's been for the last few games.
What is he now? 52?
52. You're looking at a guy.
Love is out.
He should be 7K. He should be 7 or 8K. No joke. Like, this is 38 minutes, 35 and 44 in his last 2 games in terrible matchups, and now he gets an up-pace matchup. I mean, we might be looking at 45 fantasy points from him. He's 5,200. So I really like Larry Nance. He is and also he doesn't fit everyone's thing, and that's why he hasn't been getting played as much as he should be. He doesn't fit the way that if you notice the guys who play him, they're all pro guys. Like, I mean, I see him at like 6% or 4% the other night, and literally it's all the RPS guys and like me and a couple guys who follow us in chat. You know what I mean? He's an awesome play. There's no reason he should be this price. And yeah, I'll deal with any of the range of outcomes that if he doesn't produce, fine, whatever. It could happen. Maybe he doesn't get there somehow. I have a very hard time seeing it. So I think he's just an awesome play.
Let me put this down.
On both sides.
Okay.
Hope he stays low owned.
What's that?
I hope he stays low owned. It's one of those spots where early in the day, people aren't projecting him as well. And then as the day goes on, the projections change, and all of a sudden people talk him up and everything becomes Nance. It sort of happened a little bit the other day, but still only like 15%. Utah, Toronto. This is one I feel pretty comfortable. It sucks because I actually think the pace will be good. There's a lot of guys I like in general, but the only guy I would consider even in this whole game would be Siakam. And I don't feel like this is the slate where I really want to do that. So I'm probably just going to X this one out for the most part.
I don't like a single person from this game.
Perfect. We can just move right through it. Indy and Miami.
Oh, goodness gracious.
But this is great. Like, you're going to see why this is great later, because there are some serious spots that we're going to want to, and some that we just have no choice but to attack. Brogdon is in my opinion still affordable. I'm not going to play him today. I do like Jimmy Butler on DraftKings. He is a guy I don't mind prioritizing as one of the spend ups. He gets you into that slightly lower tier where he might be lower owned again. And I'm just going to point it out. Even with Bam back, This guy is a machine. They had a terrible game in that game against Memphis, so I'm willing to throw it off. And it was on a back-to-back, and Butler wasn't supposed to even play like that day. He was doubtful, and then he was questionable, then he was in. Look, other than that, you've looked at nothing but 50s for 8 games straight. And even in a not great matchup, Indy, by the way, doesn't play the defense that they're getting credit for. I'm sorry, it doesn't play defense as well as the odds makers seem to give them credit for. But Miami also plays pretty slow offensively. So I look, on a normal slate, Bam, but I do think Butler's in play even at 9,500 here.
What is? Oh, okay. I agree with that. Again, like you said, I mean, there's value to be had. So you can, so you can get to, you could overspend for some of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What is the FanDuel price on LeVert nowadays?
Still, oh, my bad. Still too low. I still like LeVert on FanDuel. He's 5,600 over there. They did bump him up a little. Like, he shot the ball poorly. He's 6 for 16 in his last game. I know it was Brooklyn or whatever. I'm willing to take shots on LeVert under 6. I just think that he's going to end up being a 7K player in no time. He'll be a guy averaging around 35. So at 5,600, I have no problem playing him in any matchup. You will see that it's a little harder to play him and prioritize today just because there's other good plays at shooting guard on FanDuel.
Yeah, okay. We'll get over that. I was just curious. I was kind of half afraid to look.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I like Sabonis right back at 9,500 on DraftKings. And like I said, I like Brogdon, like you said. But I know it's not an easy matchup, but I don't know, man. Sabonis always seems to play a zillion minutes, and I don't know. It's I think you can take some liberties with the spend ups today.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see, because then there's the other guys that are even better, probably up at the top. So
he certainly will be lower owned, and I that was a great, he did great for me the other day, and that was in a premium matchup. Well, the only thing that worries me, and a lot of it, he's very he's done really, really well in these fast-paced games, and it's kind of weird, or games against guys without a natural big like Phoenix or Brooklyn, or not a good defensive natural big who's going to physically be able to do anything with him. I haven't really, you look at it, like against Denver, he had 2 duds in a row. You look at some of the other, games, it's just, I don't know. I just feel a little bit less on him tonight. And I just looked at him versus Butler direct, and I give Butler the edge over those two. That's the only reason I guess I didn't really talk about him. Okay. Do you want to talk about Detroit, Houston? Because I think this game is bizarre. We have to know about, we don't know anything about Houston, but Detroit's side certainly has some appealing parts.
Yeah, I don't understand exactly what's going on, but I have basically, my first look, I have like 7 plays from Detroit. You can't, they're all not going to get the minutes, right? But Frank Jackson, Delon Wright, Sadiq Bey, this is DraftKings, Jeremy Grant still, Josh Jackson, Saban Levin, Isaiah Stewart, even Plum. What's going on here? It's like, am I just hallucinating, or is everybody out? These are the same guys that would be out. What do these guys project well for everybody?
Well, Svi was playing 35 minutes a game.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm trying to get a handle on this. Okay.
Derrick Rose before that, 28 minutes a game. Blake Griffin was 28.
And they're playing Houston, so.
And they're playing Houston, and they've tightened their rotation. Now, the nerve-wracking part about this is if Dennis Smith Jr. is in fact active, although he was active and didn't play the other day.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. I thought he was inactive.
But it's COVID protocol. Maybe he was last minute, but he was supposed to be during the day. His minutes projection is sort of throwing this whole thing into a whatever.
That's probably what it is. Okay.
So that's a part of it. But I will mention again, Delon Wright as a starter is a very good play at 56 and 6K between both sides. I liked him a little better the other night. I told you, look, when you play against those old guys, I always feel like you get a little bit of a boost. They really used him to run the whole offense. Like he came damn near hitting a triple double, which would have been nice for me if he did. But I like him a lot, and it's a great matchup, obviously, regardless of who plays for Houston. Sadiq Bey is definitely a guy who I want, especially, I mean, he's 4,300 on FanDuel. And what's interesting is like he only took 14 shots the other day and he put up 54 fantasy points. He has a wide range of outcomes, but he's going to play minutes. And there is, I mean, we've seen 50 fantasy point upside from him a few times. So I have no problem with going to Saddiq Bey. I'm a little bit off the Jeremy Grant thing because Jeremy Grant is a good real life, like I will play probably a lineup or two with him, but he's a good real life basketball player that should be like your fourth option on a team. And using him as the number one option, I think that they understand that they're going to keep losing and they're okay with that. But I think they want to get some of these guys minutes. I think Isaiah Stewart is going to take minutes away from Plumlee, and I think he's mildly interesting on a different slate. Just can't quite get there on this slate because there's too much value. But Bey, Wright, and maybe a sprinkle of Grant would be in there. And then, of course, Frank Jackson. It's going to depend on what we think happens with Dennis Smith Jr. Because if Frank Jackson's going to play 30 minutes against Houston, and I never thought I'd say this, but there's actually a legitimate chance Detroit beats the hell out of Houston, depending on who plays for Houston. I like Detroit to win this game. It's bizarre to see a team that's lost 17 in a row as a 1.5 point favorite. And not only have they lost, they've been just getting crushed. And I know Detroit's terrible too, but Houston has been a different.
Well, is Christian Woods back in full now?
No, not full. I mean, he's supposed to be projected to play 30 minutes.
I mean, they're probably better with him. I mean,
yeah, I mean, maybe he does play. Of course, but yeah, and if John Wall and Oladipo play, sure. But that's speculating a lot considering it hasn't happened. They need to lose games. And even if they're better with those guys, I'll bet against the team that's won 1 million games, lost every game in a row. But I do like Saddiq Bey. I do like Delon Wright, and I like Frank Jackson a little bit on DraftKings as either a pivot or an addition to Mannion and the other stuff in Golden State.
My initial look, by the way, I'm just saying, leads me to nobody on Houston.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
I mean, but again, we've had that a million times with that initial look, and then all of a sudden everything changes and they all become great plays.
Fair enough.
So let's just, I would say let's just wait. It's only a half hour after lock. So no big deal. Hopefully we'll know. That's my guess, is we should know. It's not like these guys are going to be out there warming up to see how they feel, I don't think. I think it's just a matter of what the Houston organization decides how they can decide they're going to lose tonight. You ready to talk about Brooklyn and Orlando?
Yeah. Orlando can't guard guards.
Yeah.
James Harden's really good. Brooklyn can't guard bigs. And Vucevic is really good. So sounds good to me.
Yep.
Next. No, I mean, like that's my initial take.
Yeah, so my thing with Vooch is that one, you get the back-to-back, right? It is a back-to-back, right? Or am I missing something? Yeah.
They played the Knicks yesterday.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome, and I'm a little bit worried about all the other guys being back, taking away some of his usage.
Sure, certainly.
But they're great plays. Like, I mean, and I love the correlation. You can go back and forth with them. We're looking for spend ups. If the game stays close, you get a little extra bonus there. I don't like by the way, if I was betting on this game, which I'm not going to, I would bet on Brooklyn to cover the spread. I'm sorry, Orlando to cover the spread. 11 points at home or 10.5 seems like a little bit much. I feel like Orlando can at least be competitive with their full team healthy, or pretty much most of their guys healthy. But I'm with you. I like Harden. I'm going to have to do my big slate thing where I probably take one shot at Kyrie, just because the 50 real life points is always on the table for that guy. And he'll be completely unowned tonight. So I don't mind Kyrie. It's actually interesting if you think about Kyrie versus Butler. Well, Butler's like a better play. Kyrie is going to have my guess is significantly lower ownership. But your assessment is basically what I've got. I mean, the only thing that's different is that I see the projections on Aaron Gordon's minutes. He did play 31 minutes last night, but are they really going to play him on a back-to-back 30 plus minutes? And if they do, on FanDuel, he's 5,400 against Brooklyn. That's pretty enticing. So I want to see if they're going to play him or if they're going to limit his minutes. We might get information on a minutes monitoring or whatever. In that case, I'll be off of it. But if he's good to go on FanDuel, especially at 5,400, I think he's really interesting.
Okay.
All right, so this is the game, right? Golden State, Memphis.
Yeah.
You want to start it off, or do you want me to?
Welcome, all my friends to Nico Mannion Chalk Night, right?
Yeah. Boy, so Mannion's talented, by the way. It's not like this kid doesn't have any skills, and he's a pretty good fairly good fantasy point per minute producer, considering that he's usually playing with two other, like, whether it's Draymond, ball hand, like whether it's Steph, whether Draymond, even Oubre and Wiggins can take up some usage. I think it's going to be hard to get away from on DraftKings, assuming that he starts. I also love Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is a guy who, like, he'll look good doing it too. Like, he'll go out there and do whatever he does, but he can play. I like Andrew Wiggins. This is my order. I mean, it's not going to be off the board here. I really like Damian Lee if you don't play, especially if you don't play Mannion and you want to go a different route, they get blown out, whatever angle. Damian Lee and Kent Bazemore are both interesting. I want to point out, everybody thinks Kent Bazemore, and if he might even start tonight, but I heard a lot of, there's talk about, oh, Kent Bazemore going to be the shot. I'm like, Kent Bazemore, if you look at his games, like even the game Steph and Draymond rested, which was right before the All-Star break, Kent Bazemore played 11. No, that's not right. Yeah, it is right. He played 11 minutes in that game after playing 30 the night before when Steph and Draymond both played. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm just saying, like, it's not like Kent Bazemore, without Steph and Oubre is like this automatic thing. Also, you have to see who's starting, because like Toscano Anderson, if he's starting, could be intriguing. And the one other worry I would just look, Brad Wanamaker could start, by the way. That's on the table. It's unlikely, but it's possible. This could be thrown for a complete loop. So I just want to say, like, have your things ready. And on FanDuel, maybe have a little bit less of this outside of maybe I actually think Poole and Wiggins would be my favorite too on FanDuel. I feel safer about Poole than I do about Mannion, but of course Mannion's significantly cheaper on DraftKings.
Yeah, I don't want to get too heavy-handed about this, and maybe I'm just in one of those moods, but maybe I'm just not experienced enough to say it like this. But I'll pretend I was in the horse racing thing, because it's the way I used to talk sometimes. I think that if you play Kent Bazemore as chalk, I think you really hate money. I think that'd be a terrible, terrible idea. For all the reasons that you said, I mean, he was pretty chalky pretty recently. I think that might be the game you were talking about. Everybody was so sure he was going to play like 34 minutes. I mean, he played like 12 or something like that.
11, yeah.
He's not like some guy that they have to get minutes to. He's not like some rookie they want to get minutes to. He's some freaking veteran who just happens to be in a situation where Curry is out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'd much rather play, well, forget different prices, but let's go back to basics, man. You have Oubre and Wiggins that are going to get a zillion more shots than they usually.
Wait. You said Oubre. You mean Draymond?
Yeah, no. I meant Wiggins. Sorry about that. Wiggins and Draymond in games where, in a game where the guy who shoots the ball more than anybody in like the history of the NBA pretty much is not playing, right? Mm-hmm. So there's more usage and more going to go to them. I don't know why I have to go play Kent Bazemore. I'll play Nick Mannion because he's probably going to be point guard. Mm-hmm. And he'll probably have a really, really nice assist rate, and he'll get some looks mm-hmm. himself. But I think that you just stick with Wiggins and Draymond, and you're probably in good shape. Now you could, again, the Jordan Poole thing, I guess that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to Bazemore. I think that's fancy play syndrome. I certainly wouldn't play him as chalk. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I actually don't mind him as a tournament play if he gets no ownership and these other guys all play. That if you get a 2% Kent Bazemore, sure, take a shot at 5% of them or something, 10% maybe. But if he ends up starting,
I don't care.
It's a little tricky, but I do think that you don't need to play him. Absolutely, we're on the same page there. I do think that if Toscano Anderson's starting, I'm going to have some interest. But these guys who are out aren't really the Toscano Anderson's going to fill in type of guys. I think that this game is very stackable if you want to play 4 guys from the Warriors, and I think that's legitimately, like, Draymond becomes in play, but only for me if I'm going to play Ja or Joval, who I love, both of them. But I also worry about this game staying close. I worry about some of the bench being able to do enough damage. But if you're going to play, like, I would say that if you're going to play Draymond, Wiggins, let's say Poole and Mannion for argument's sake, which I think is completely legitimate, or throw Damian Lee in for Poole or whatever you want to do. I think you can, on the other side, just throw in one of Ja or Joval, and I think you have a nice little, game-ish stack. On a different slate, I would be saying, hey, play Brandon Clark, because if there is a blowout and things get a little messy, or even just against this matchup, he's got a chance to explode. But I just don't think we need to do that kind of stuff on this slate. So it's going to be the Draymond only if Ja or Joval is in the lineup, if that makes sense.
Draymond only if
I'm going to play Ja and Joval in that lineup, because I do like Ja and Joval on the other side, but I worry about the game staying. I mean, it's not even just staying close. It's that the bench can control the game. That's what worries me. I'm worried that Ja and them leave with a 3 or 4 point lead. They get their rotations out, and then the bench, goes on a 10-0 run or something. There's no reason to bring those guys back in. And Memphis has shown the willingness to sit these guys for long stretches. And in other games, they've shown the willingness to play Ja 40 minutes. So it really just depends on how the bench unit does. But they have an awesome bench unit now in Memphis. They're one of the deepest teams in the NBA. And that's the only part that's sort of holding me back. But Joval should destroy this front line. Like, he should literally just massacre them. And so should, and Ja should. I mean, they just don't have anybody who can guard him. So I love those guys as run backs if you're going to play, just as one of them, not both. If you're going to play, maybe you could play both actually, but if you're going to play 4 Warriors, I would have to have 4 Warriors and Draymond being one of them, probably on the other side for me to do that.
So to take from as we move ahead to Chicago and Denver, to take from a joke that I make from time to time. So I think Jokic is good for 50 fantasy points, and then we can talk about the second half. I mean, this is like ridiculous. This is like an insane matchup for him. Yep. Only thing that's going to stand in the way of him getting 80 fantasy points is a blowout, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Which is certainly in the offing. But I mean, the more I'm staring at this, I mean, this is like, I just kind of have to play him. I mean, he's probably going to be insanely high owned, but for me, it's gonna be rough. And you can make the same argument for Luka too, right? Against Portland defense.
You can make the same argument for the other guy on the other side of that game too.
Right, and we're going to talk about that in a second, right? But Jokic is like, this is I think that this is the easiest play on the board.
Yeah, I think the same initially. Easiest play is a little bit harder for me, only because I do think really highly of Dame and Luka in this matchup, and I think Luka has been a little bit on a mission lately that no one's really talking about. I also think that just enough of the blowout risk maybe makes it there, but the truth is that the Bulls haven't been bad lately. You know what I mean? Like, this is not a team, they've been blowing people out. So I don't know that I would just, and they're healthy. I think you just need to, like, the guy you're going to prioritize obviously is Jokic from this game. I'm not going to get into all the other guys who would be decent guys to take shots on. One of them being Will Barton, who all of a sudden no one's going to play anymore, and all he's been doing is just crushing. So Will Barton's not crushing, but 33, 43, 35, 35. That's a solid for his, 5,600 price tag. I just don't think you need to do that on this slate. But I do think that if you're going to play some Jokic and you're playing multiple lineups, throwing in Levine is certainly not a bad idea. 8,700. I like the matchup for him, actually. What's bothering me about him is you look at his numbers and it's actually it's not like the last year sheets where we'd see him go like 4 for 21 and still have 40 fantasy points.
I know.
He's so efficient. He's just become like awesome. He's genuinely been one of the best guards in basketball this year. I mean, but you need that efficiency these days because they're fully healthy. So he's not the same play he was when Markkanen was out, when Thad Young wasn't in the starting lineup, sort of running some things. And if I end up on one Thad Young lineup, if I need 6,100 again tonight, it's in the realm of possibility that I could end up doing it. I just don't think it's going to happen. But you're right. Jokic screams of being an incredible play. And by the way, I think he's projected too low. I think he should be projected for 60 plus fantasy points here. I don't understand why he's not.
Because they don't like to do it. They just don't like to do it. Everybody knows there's no variation where he scores less than 60 fantasy points.
It's like almost no way.
And yet they have him as a median like less than 60, I think.
Yeah, your only way is Jamal Murray going out there, and yeah, that's possible, like hitting like 10.
No, the only way I'm telling you is that if that could be, or they just don't, if he plays 3 quarters.
That's true. Even then, he still might get there. He might get to 60. So, all right. So Jokic, I like that so far. Jokic is being the priority spend up along with, I mean, as of right now, until we get into this game, it's Jokic and Harden as the spend ups, right? I think pretty clearly.
Yep.
So what do we do? Okay.
Well, let's first say that one thing that McCollum is being out is taken away is the BobbyFi CJ McCollum whisper, because Bobby has been elite at figuring out which of the good CJ McCollum games, and now that CJ is back, we're going to have to really start remembering to ask whether it's a CJ McCollum game, especially if and when his minutes start to become normal, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
This is another cute one. Projecting Lillard at 48 fantasy points. That's
interesting, huh?
That's another beauty. So I think that this is a good DFS spot. It's a good Luka against Lillard thing. Play them both together and hope the game stays close. I don't even know who's favored, but hope the game stays close. So I presume it's probably close one way or the other. And they just go back and forth, and heaven forbid they go to overtime and they both get 80. I mean, like that's certainly in the realm of outcomes. I don't think I have much of an interest in anybody else from this game. So where are you at?
So the fact that McCollum only played 20 minutes in the game that they were struggling last night sort of gives me the feeling that he probably will play tonight. I think first of all, I'm trying to figure out who got assists last night for Portland. Did they have a game where they had like less than 10 assists as a team? Because Damian Lillard had 0 assists. And that is everyone's biggest nightmare with CJ McCollum is Damian Lillard's assist rate as a part of it, and his usage. The usage has been fine, but 0 assists? Like, how is that even possible against New Orleans? That is a little bit alarming when you think about paying a huge price. Now, I probably won't play Dame Lillard on DraftKings tonight. I might play him some on Fanduel. I just think the other spend ups are a little bit better than he is, but I do like him. And I just, with the McCollum situation, I still think that he's a good play. It's the 10-9. It's the playing him over Harden or any of these guys, really. I just don't think he's quite as good a play as they are. But I do think on FanDuel, I'm going to definitely get some Luka Dame lineups together. I just think just go for the ceilings of both. I think they're both awesome plays. I think Luka is I mean, he was unbelievable against the Clippers in both of those last matchups. And everybody says, oh, that's the toughest matchup for him. He destroys the Clippers for whatever reason. But I actually think it's more than that. I think he's a little bit on a mission right now. They needed to win games. They were struggling there a little bit for a while. And they've played really well. And they played much better. And Luka going into Portland, which I, again, will just state, doesn't play a whole lot of defense. And of course, he's very interesting. On DraftKings, he probably falls just beneath the other guys for me. Maybe right there with Harden, maybe just below Jokic, I would say. They're very close. But yeah, I'm sort of with you on just those guys. I would like to say, though, that on FanDuel, I will play some Kristaps for sure tonight. Back under 8K. We know there's a ceiling there. We haven't really seen the shot blocking like massively like we used to. He's got a couple games with 3 blocks lately, and he's sort of, I think he's averaged 2 since the All-Star break. He's averaged 1.8 since the All-Star break. If you can get a few blocks against him in a fast-paced matchup like this, he hits a few threes. 50 fantasy points certainly seems in the realm of his range. So I do like Kristaps a little bit on FanDuel, but it's Luka and Dame for me as my main plays. But again, it's probably going to end up being more on FanDuel than DraftKings just because I do like Jokic. I do like Harden. I like Butler. I even like Kyrie. And then we've got the same game from last night, which we can jump over to now from over there. Is there anybody else you said there wasn't anybody, but I'm trying to figure out if there's anybody worth digging on. I think all of the guys from Dallas are good plays. Like, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a good medium play, but do you really need that guy tonight? Like, we've got guys in the 3K range that could put up the same score as him. I do think he's likely to get 30 fantasy points. He's going to have a great shot at it. It's a good matchup. And he's 4,900. He's 4,200 on FanDuel, so maybe you consider him over there. But yeah, it's not. I don't feel like incredibly excited or enthused about it. And same thing with Josh Richardson. They're definitely gonna get more minutes with DFS gone. We've seen that already happen. It's just a matter of what can they do with those minutes versus the guys in the 3K range.
Yeah. So Minnesota Phoenix. I have a question. Is Chris Paul the type of player that'll sit on back to back or no?
It's been occasional, but they seem to be a little bit. What was the final score of that game last night?
It was really close.
I know it was a close game, but I didn't get the final score, which is, I think, important.
I was rooting for overtime at the end. So
is that? Oh, so
123
pulling it out. I have a very hard time thinking that he's not going to play if Minnesota pulled that one. Yeah, they pulled it out. I just don't see how he doesn't end up playing here. Simple as that. Maybe he would sit, but again, it's funny to see a team get, lose last night and then they play the next night and they're 11-point favorites. I actually agree with that. I think that they're going to win. I think the game's going to be lower scoring. But we could just go back to the same, like Anthony Edwards. Okay. This is absurd what they're doing. I mean, his usage, he had 42% usage rate yesterday. I might have to take the L at some point on him, because it's not that I've ever said he was going to be bad. I thought he would be a good 20+ point per game scorer for his NBA career. I didn't think he was the best paid player in the draft. I still don't. But they are giving. I mean, I've never this rookie. This guy hasn't had less than 20 shots except for once in the last 10 games, 11 games. Doesn't matter whether Cat plays or not. They're running everything through his hands. He still can't. I think he actually had a couple last night. He had 3 assists last night. So basically one of his highs for the year. Doesn't get any assists, basically completely scoring dependent with a few, he can get some rebounds. He can potentially get you steals and blocks. He doesn't really do a ton of blocking, but a steal here and there. 7,100, I feel, is too cheap for his usage. And even if it wasn't back-to-back nights and maybe they'll give him a little bit more rest, I would be all over him. I think he's a really, really good play on both sides. And I prefer him a little bit over Towns even. I can't believe I'm saying this. But if you're going to get into this game, just play Booker, Towns, and Edwards again. These guys, you could get 50 out of each of those guys or average 50 out of each of those guys very easily. This matchup, as we pointed out yesterday, it doesn't get a lot better for Devin Booker than a team like this. This is perfect for him. He's going to put up 40 to 50 almost every time. And he put up 50 last night. I don't see why that wouldn't, be the case again. I do worry about it staying close. I think Jay Crowder's in play on FanDuel at 3,800 again. And on DraftKings at 45, a little bit less so. Mikhail Bridges, who I was all over last night, one of the few things I did really right. He put up 40 fantasy points last night, and no one's going to play him tonight at 5,200 and 4,900. So all these guys make sense. I do worry about the game in general, and it's hard to prioritize with all the plays in the slate, but I do think a Booker Edwards is where I'm leaning, as just getting those two guys in the same lineups.
I'm going to talk out of my ass for a second, and I'm going to suggest that either no one or it's been a long time since a rookie has put up 31 shot attempts. How about that?
Yeah, I don't know when it would have happened. That is a lot. That's more. I don't know if LeBron ever did that as a rookie. He's not a shooter guy like this. But yeah, that's a lot of shot attempts.
I don't know, Luka maybe.
I don't think Luka even would have shot that. Maybe he would have. Maybe he did. That would be the only one, I think. Trae Young. Trae Young did. Trae Young would have done it. He had to have.
Probably in his first game.
Yeah, seriously. 30 was that. And then what happened in the second half?
Right. So I have one kind of like wild play if you're interested. And I agree with what you said. I mean, I would probably go back to the same guys. I'm not into Chris Paul on the back-to-back. Booker is fine. Cat's fine. So if you don't want to play Frank Jackson, if you don't want to do whatever, and you want to take a stab and maybe you get a late whatever, Cameron Payne is 3,200.
He's 39, isn't he? 39.
Oh, 3,900. Sorry, and he's been playing from time to time, minutes. So I think it's a totally wild play to throw in the mix. I I would include him in the list.
Yeah, I've actually I thought about it a couple times in some of the smaller slates recently.
Yeah.
Javon Carter seems to be more back in the rotation than he was. You know, it's the only reason I sort of wouldn't think about him anymore. Also, it's a big slate, but yeah, I hear you. I do think the main guys in this. I mean, look, if we do get another close game here, you're going to get 3 or 4 guys to go off. Will it be enough to win the slate? I don't know, but I do think that it'll give you the chance. It's a really, really good. I also though would say I would bet the under in that game. Vegas did a good job of making the under. I think it's like 8 points lower than it was yesterday, or 7 points, which is pretty sharp.
That can't be.
I think it is.
Really?
I think it was near 240 yesterday or 238, and now it's 231 and a half.
That's
I
interesting.
got to double check that, but that was what I had as my on my notes. All right, do you want to talk about Fanduel positions, because it is a little different? Look, one guy I'm not mentioning in the Minnesota game. I have to throw it out there though. I didn't mention. I think that we had like Jalen Noel on this back-to-back. There's a chance, like, I'm not saying Rubio sits, but the minutes certainly could be lowered. And at 4.6, the guy has definitely shown some upside. Maybe it's the wrong slate for it, but I just wanted to throw him out there if you're playing a late night slate or something. But Fanduel, let's talk about Fanduel.
Yeah, let me just pull up a lobby real quick and let's them through one. Okay, so wow. So at point guard, I mean, you could certainly play Luka at 10-4. And I suppose you could certainly play Dame, right?
I like Luka and Dame a lot.
If you want to screw around, maybe not even screwing around. I mean, like Derek White is 4,800.
I think he's the mega chalk, so I think he'll be the most popular as of right now.
Well, so then we'll go back to Mr. Wright, to Delon Wright then.
Yeah,
So,
I like that a lot.
So we'll use Delon Wright, but as we mentioned, I mean, Derek White probably is going to rate to be a good play, and then Delon Wright would be probably my I guess sort of pivot. I'm not going to play DeJounte Murray, I don't think. But yeah, it depends on what the rest of your lineups go. I do think that Luka's Luka's an extremely strong play, and I believe that Dame is also. How would you rank all these guys?
Yeah, this is a tough position for me because I really like a lot of these guys. I mean, there's a lot of plays that I'm very high on. So in order, and by the way, one interesting guy who no one else is going to play either, but it's just the price has gotten low enough where we can consider him over here. I wouldn't play him on DraftKings. And it's just the minutes thing, and it's Darius Garland. He's 5,500.
Ooh, that's going to be no owned.
Yeah, he put up 40 in the last game too. So it's not like this is just, a nobody. I do like Derek White. I don't mind the White Garland backcourt thing. I don't mind the Dame Luka backcourt thing. Chris Paul is 6,900 again, should be popular, and for good reason. It's not like he's going to bust for you here, but is he going to win you a tournament? I don't know. It's different on a 6-game slate last night than it is on this giant slate with a lot of options. I sort of like the Delon Wright thing a little bit better. Ranking them would be for the lower guys or the mid-tier guys. By the way, I also do like John Morant, especially because you can play him with that stack if you want to do that. But probably going to end up being less when I look at all these other options we've got. Even like Kemba Walker feels too cheap. It's just a lot of weirdness at the smaller end. So I do think that I'm playing the 1650 buy-in tonight, and I think that Luka and Dame on the other side is the way that I'm leaning towards going right now. I do think that it's not going to be that highly owned, and I think Lillard people are going to be off a little bit. We'll see. I mean, they have to be, right? Like, there's just too many options here. And if you're not going to play those guys, I'll try and just win the raw points for the position, and that's the guys I would lean towards. Am I missing any other big spend ups that you might like over here? Like that De'Aaron Fox, of course, makes some sense, but I would rather probably just get up. Same thing with Kyrie. I would probably just rather get up to the other two if I'm going to pay up on this site. I guess the most mid-tier guy I like is Ja, but that's really only in stacks with Warriors. Yeah, I think mostly you're paying down or playing the mid-tier like CP3. Oh, I didn't mention Jamal Murray. So Jamal Murray, is always a great tournament play, in my opinion. He had been struggling. He put up 41 the other night, but they didn't play. Like they blew him out. He didn't even play like the rest of the third quarter. Like he probably would have had another 8 minutes. He probably would have gotten into the 55, 60 range. And you might be seeing him as chalk, or he certainly wouldn't be 6,500 and 7,400 between the sites. I think he's really in play on both sites. And I think that's your way of avoiding Luka. I'm sorry, of Jokic is I do think that in this matchup, it is a really good chance that Murray just goes nuts. So 6,500, I can take a shot on an unowned Jamal Murray.
So I presume, I mean, I can't imagine him not being insanely chalky, but kind of hard to not play Andrew Wiggins at shooting guard. At 5,200, he's rating for me to be just light years away the best play. Other guys, again, obviously you can play James Harden if you want to use a spend up there. And then we mentioned Devin Booker before. He's still cheap over here. And then I'll go back to Josh Jackson again at 4,800. Those are the, at least at quick look, those are my main plays.
Well, that's interesting. Like you said Josh Jackson?
Yeah.
48?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even like consider him, but I guess that is actually like pretty fair, especially considering I named 100 other Detroit players. All of Detroit is really cheap. Tim Hardaway Jr. at 4,200 stands out to me. The minutes are hard to ignore. I have mild interest in Damian Lee. I think he's going to be the lower owned part of that game, and I think he's got shooting upside. I like Devin Booker. I like James Harden. I like Marcus Smart. I have mild interest in Tyrese Halliburton, and then I mentioned already that I really do like Edwards, and I want to start playing him a lot more if they're gonna. I mean, just the usage that he's getting is so hard to compete with. One guy who no one's gonna play after being pretty popular and putting up a big game, or maybe they won't. Maybe they will play, and maybe I shouldn't say that. But I do think Donovan Mitchell is a little bit interesting against this specific team, especially coming off a loss, basically being outplayed by both guys, about whether you want to say it was Westbrook or Beal or both. I have some interest in him there. Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess if I was ranking him, I go Wiggins, Harden as my favorites, and then you're getting into the Edwards, Booker, Smart, and Hardaway. I have all those guys about the same. The other ones are a little bit more just long shot tournament-y for me.
Well, boy, it's small forward. There's a lot of like low scoring value crap in this position. I'm just kind of inclined to go to the and then Ben, I don't know where this construction is going to take you, but I'm just kind of inclined to do something like Butler, Jaylen Brown here, if I can.
Butler might be crazy on this slate, don't you think?
Well, I don't know, but who else are you going to play? I mean,
well, there's incredible value.
That's true. I mean, that's the thing. But I guess my favorite value play is going to be what, Sadiq Bey or Mikhail Bridges.
Yeah, but both of them are.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't think there's anything like Sadiq Bey is like. You want to talk about a tournament? I mean, the problem is he's going to have ownership tonight. It's annoying. We were just getting him at this price with nothing, but he puts up one big game, which we all knew was there anyway. I love Sadiq Bey. 43, yeah, you put up 50 and they lower his price. And he's not become only shooting reliant. Now, he did make 6 out of his 10 threes, but it's not like you need 50 out of him at 4,300. Right. He's got some rebounding upside, which he showed. He had 12 rebounds the other night. In this offense, like, he should get plenty of opportunity too. And I know the shots have sort of come and gone for him and the numbers are all over the place. So if he ends up too high owned, sure, you can always pivot. But I like him a lot, and you don't get a better matchup than he's got. So he seems like a really easy play to me. And I actually like Porter and Martin a little bit on the other side, especially Porter, even with the guys back.
Which Porter?
Kevin.
Okay.
But I'll go right. I'm on Keldon Johnson tonight. So this is the night I think he may be able to break out of it, I hope. And he was fine last game, but he's not going to win you anything. But I'm into Keldon Johnson, and I'm into Harrison Barnes as well a little bit, especially with he's supposed to be traded to the Celtics. Like, everybody's waiting for this to happen. And here he gets to go play in Boston. So it's kind of interesting to see how he shows up. I could see it having either kind of effect on him. One other guy who's minimum cost and maybe allows you to differentiate your builds, you don't need to spend down on the other guys elsewhere, is Daniel House, or near minimum cost. He's 3,800. He should play 30 plus minutes tonight. And we've all seen Daniel House, especially on this site. He can have those 3-4 steal games and all of a sudden get you there without even doing anything. Not to mention he hits a few threes and all of a sudden you're in business with a 10x performance from him.
Right.
I do think this is the weaker of the positions. Will Barton is another one that I like over here, but don't really like as much on DraftKings. And that's most of my guys. Bridges being the other one. I guess in order. Hold on one second. Sorry, I'm just finishing up because I had these guys written on a list. Sorry, it's Bay followed by Brown. Maybe say Bay and Brown will probably have similar ownership on both. I'm not playing Jimmy Butler at 10-6 over here. I just feel like there's other guys to spend on at other positions. But I do understand the winning the position thing. It would allow you to differentiate. So it's kind of clever. And he will be low owned because I can't see people playing 10-6 for him when you've got all these other studs on the slate. But Bridges, Brown, Sadiq Bey would be my favorite. Keldon Johnson right in that same range with those guys, followed by the longer shots of House. And then you can call Barnes a long shot or whatever. He's going to play tons of minutes. Barnes, Barton, those are my other guys. I don't like this. This is probably my least favorite position on FanDuel.
Yeah. So power forward, I'm there again, unfortunately. I'm gonna keep playing Jeremy Grant. I mean, I know that he's not what he was at the beginning of the year, but he's been doing fine for. Maybe I just got lucky with him. Like the few times I play him, he does well. He's playing against Houston. He rates to be a pretty decent play. And then there's Kristoff back to disrespect under 8K, right? So Kristoff, I like him. Tatum, Green. Those are my top ones. So Grant, Tatum, and Porzingis and Green.
Yeah, if Aaron Gordon plays tonight, you can be sure that I'm going to be all over Aaron Gordon. I actually think he's probably going to be like the highest owned player, though.
How many minutes did he play in his last game?
31.
Oh, that's it then.
But it was yesterday, and he's coming off an injury. And Brooklyn, we'll see how it goes. I mean, It's going to be an interesting. Hopefully, we'll know. We should know that one before lock. Otherwise, I guess this position I would say I hate even more than this. I like. I'll play Jay Crowder again at 3,800. I like Daniel Tice at 4,200.
Yeah, you can play Tice.
Especially, I always like him better on FanDuel anyway. Isaiah Stewart at 3,900. These are the minimum cost guys. This is what I keep running into over here. Kleba at 3,800. It's just why I don't love the position. There's nobody who's really that awesome. Maybe we just say F it and we play Bam at 8K. That's too cheap.
Yeah.
And he's the guy I guess the guy I would spend up on the most, other than you could make the argument for Tatum. I mean, Sabonis too, but I just like Tatum a little bit better. Well, I guess I like his matchup a lot better. But boy, it's not as fun. And then Porzingis too. I mean, it's just, I have a bunch of guys written in about 20%. The only guy I have above that is Gordon. And the 20% guys are Bam, Tatum, Porzingis, and Crowder right now. I don't feel great about it. I'd like to find other routes. That's just where I am for now. And I do have, 10% written in on 10 to 20 on Jeremy Grant. I think he's going to be pretty popular. I'll probably just be below the field if he is. And because the position's weak, the one last guy I'm going to mention, I was going to mention Claxton, but I'm actually just going to say that Jashawn Tate and Lauri Markkanen would be my next guys in the mid tier. Anyway.
Okay, so I'm gonna come up with the whatever you call it, the sheets play of the day.
Okay.
It's not a sheets play of the day because I have no idea what the ownerships are going to be. I don't know what's going on. I don't know anything, but I presume that people are going to play Jokic, right? I mean,
I would hope so.
Yeah. So you could pay down for Podol if you want. It's got to be. I don't know. Maybe he's not popular, but with Kevin Love out, I want to play Jared Allen. I just do.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, so
I so you're gonna go.
Not particularly earth-shattering. I guess not as much as I first thought, but I'd like to play Jokic. I'd like to play Allen, and I'd like to play Valanciunas in stacks of that game, just like we discussed over on DraftKings.
Yeah, one other guy I'm going to throw in just as a cheap option, I know it hasn't been good the last few games, and there's been even some matchups against big. It's really hard to figure out what they're doing with his minutes, DeAndre Jordan. But you would think naturally that Claxton wouldn't be a fair matchup for Vucevic, and he probably goes nuts. So they probably have to keep Jordan back out there a little bit longer, which honestly has sort of led me to Vucevic. I think Vucevic is a great pivot off of the high-owned Jokic. I love Jokic. He'll be my highest-owned player at the position as of right now. I love, other than that, I think you're looking at the same thing with Vucevic, Valanciunas, Jared Allen. Those are my next guys in order. I really like all of them. And I don't have a ton of interest in anybody else here. DeAndre Jordan I mentioned, so that just gives you a feeling for how little interest I have in other people as of right now. I mean, DeAndre Ayton is 6K, and again, just was chalky again last night and just puts up 24 fantasy points and doesn't close. And I mean, and I know Podol makes sense from a price perspective, but God, do I really want to play that guy on this giant slate with, in a pretty bad matchup for him specifically? It just feels gross. Maybe Cantor is the answer. Maybe Cantor at 6K is better than, you know what? I think he is. I think he's a better play than Podol. I think he's a better play than a lot of these other guys who we'll consider in that price range. And we've seen bigs just absolutely eat up Dallas. Was one of the other reasons that I justified, so much Zubac and Morris the other night. But the main guy for me is definitely going to be, I will try to get a Jokic, Dame and Doncic lineup in together. I think that would be pretty cool, just because I think that you could easily win the most important positions by an astronomical amount. I mean, you might be looking at 200 plus from those guys.
Yep.
And it sounds crazy, but it's really in the cards. It's definitely possible.
All right. Anything else?
No, I think we did it. I think this was pretty good, guys. Sheets, are you gonna be able to make it at 6:30?
6:30 tonight. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you at 6:30. And yeah, good luck to everyone out there. Hopefully golf is still running well. I haven't looked at it in a while, so looking forward to jumping on that after I get off the show. Good luck to everyone.